Welcome to Ask the Experts. I'm Jill Schlesinger, editor-at-large of CBS MoneyWatch.com. Sorry, it's Friday. So joining us is Adam Levin. Thank you for coming today, Adam.
Thank you for inviting me.
Check this out, just for a little bio, Jack. He's the former director of the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs. Do you feel slighted because you think that New Jersey is not actually the most corrupt state in the union, but that now it seems that maybe Illinois might be or South Carolina? Do you feel that?
Actually, those of us in New Jersey always appreciated the concept of people thinking we were more than the Sopranos said we were, but hey.
Yeah, okay. All right. So
the whole pension fund thing, though, I think brings New Jersey back in the running.
Exactly. Cheating about, lying about the disclosure of what's going on in the pension fund to the municipal bond market. That's it. But wait a minute. You know what's so great about being a state? You can really goof up. No fines. No fines. Basically, they did the same thing that Goldman Sachs did. It cost Goldman Sachs $550 million. New Jersey, zero. So what the heck is happening on Sunday? Can you tell us what's new credit card rules? Hey, Roland, put this up on the screen so I can tell people they can actually get this. So federalreserve.gov, and it's a consumer link, but new credit card rules that are effective August 22nd on a Sunday.
But look how happy that woman is about the new credit card rules. I think that's
She
great.
is happy.
Yeah.
She is happy. She's also happy she works for the Federal Reserve, which is also a good thing.
I mean, she's happy she still has a job, which is important.
Exactly.
Her job is printing money. So,
And that is and it's a job that's been in place for a long time. So, Adam, what's going on Sunday?
Well, this is really the third wave of regulations that have been implemented as a result of the Credit Card Reform Act that was passed a year ago. Last August, the first set went in February, the second set. Now this is kind of the final set. Although we have to look at this as kind of a work in progress because there'll be changes over time, I believe, and we're going to be refining it. But anyway, so the rules really relate more to the penalties and fees and gift cards than in the past. The first is that a rate has to bear some resemblance to what the cost of the omission or the cost of the violation.
That's shocking.
Yeah, imagine
relativity in the credit card industry? I don't mean that for our credit card industry sponsors.
Something. We didn't say that. The second thing is that they're limiting the fees to $25 as opposed to $39 or more, unless someone is a chronic violator or the cost is fairly proportional, again, to whatever the problem is that they're trying to correct with this particular penalty. Third thing is that they have to do the periodic rate reviews, because one of the critical aspects of the Credit Card Reform Act was to try to sort of put a lid on the way they could increase rates on existing balances as well as on a going forward basis.
You think that's really going to happen? I mean, they're really going to do that? They're going to really check these rates? I mean, and what's I don't know. I feel like how they're going to surveil that from the outside.
I'm not convinced. Again, it's one of the features of the law that if we live long enough, we might actually see. But they may have just, three guys in a room and it's a thumbs up, thumbs down. And what happens if there's a tie? But I guess with three guys, you can't have a tie. Then one of the best parts of the penalty section is the fact that you can't have a $3 Happy Meal that begets a $39 over-limit fee. Or it would have to be, couldn't be more than that which caused you to go over the limit. And then there are the gift card rules. The gift cards actually were the gift that kept on giving for the retailers. It wasn't necessarily the gift that kept on giving for consumers. So now it has to be a 5-year card. Secondly, that if you have to have not used it for a year before they can start tacking on inactivity, dormancy, service fees, and that they can only charge you one fee a month. The only caveat here is that for gift cards before April of 2010, they really don't, the restrictions on them don't go into effect until after January 31, 2011. So it really has to do with those gift cards that were sold after beginning of April of this year.
So this is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, obviously.
Yes.
Where are the credit card companies going to get those? How are they going to get those fees back from us? Because it ain't just going to be like, oh, yeah, I guess we'll just make less money. Well, so of course, where are they doing that?
Well, we're dealing with guys that never met a fee they didn't like.
Exactly. So, listen, it's their business. I don't want to, but they're going to find this money elsewhere.
No, they're definitely the annual fee, which had gone away, has come back. They tried an inactivity fee. They got slammed by the Federal Reserve, so they won't be able to do that. They are charging still over-limit fees for those who opt in to over-limit programs, but you actually have to now affirmatively opt in as opposed to just being given an over-limit program. There are rewards restoration fees, ATM fees, balance transfer fees, foreign currency fees, currency conversion fees, and probably as we speak right now, someone with an eye shade is sitting in an office with some form of algorithm coming up with a new fee we haven't yet heard about.
I like that. Jack, when you hear eye shade, do you just think about the producers? Is that what happens? That's what happens for me.
Yeah.
Right. So this is. So do you think that the Card Act has been effective, Jack? Do you think that is it a good thing? Should we be happy about all this or what?
I think on balance it's a good thing. I mean, it had become outrageous.
Yeah.
And so while it's true we will all pay in other ways, if the financial model is pushed in the direction where the consumer has a little more control, and if you don't make a mistake and you follow the rules, then there's not some sneaky fee that you're not seeing that's getting charged to you. I think that's a good thing. Now, it's possible that the benefits for the best card holders will go down a little bit. Maybe those rock bottom interest rates will creep up a little bit. We know the rewards have been getting stingier for a long time.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sitting on 120,000 Delta Sky Miles, and because I don't make vacation plans 2 years in advance, I can't spend
I'll give
them.
you 20 cents on the point for that. I'll tell you right now, take those off your hands anytime. Adam, what do you think? Is the Card Act been a good thing, a bad thing, effective, not effective? Should we be applauding or not?
No, I think it's a very positive first step, but it is a first step. It's not a silver bullet. It really is a work in progress. I certainly think the things they did in terms of putting strict limits on how they could raise rates on existing balances, the way they've tried to bring into focus more the fee issue, the fact you're given more time to be aware of changes so you can develop a strategy to either find another credit card or raise the available credit on an existing card in the event that you get a rate or fee you don't like. I think that the provisions on the gift cards, the debit card provisions that they put into effect, I mean, these are all positive. The disclosures, very important. Most people had no clue how long it would take you to pay off your credit card if you only made the minimum payment. Some people felt empowered by making minimum payments, not realizing that they would probably by the 12th of Tisha B'Av be paid off.
Jack, can I let me translate that for
Thank
you?
Yes, I was.
That would actually be a reference to the Judaic calendar. So it's a long time.
Long time.
Okay.
Translated for the WASP.
In fact,
it's
that's a date that doesn't even exist, I
right.
think. But so that was important. But again, I think what this brings into sharp focus is the fact that with all of these wonderful disclosure requirements now, which are important, it really says to consumers, just as we are now making institutions more accountable to us, we now have to be more accountable to ourselves. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter how big, bold, bright, or better positioned the now less than fine, more easily understandable print will be if you don't read it. If you have the opportunity to opt into an overlimit program or opt out of a fee or rate that you don't like, if you don't know that it's coming, you can't do anything about it. So it really requires us to think more about how credit is a portfolio, as investments are a portfolio, and we have to be our own professional credit manager, as we would hope that someone would
another job. I got to
manage
be
our
my
money.
own healthcare
That's a smart
manager,
way to think about
a
it, though.
credit manager. I got a lot on my plate. People are they're tired of this, Adam. It's one more thing to do. There's nothing, really, we're just going to have to do it, though, right?
No, this is one of the things where this is called adult. This is just one of the things we have to face and do.
Yeah.
I've tried to avoid that for years, but
You've
I've
done
always
well.
found emotional age is radically different than chronological.
Yes, I understand. Many men are like that. Not Jack, though. So,
Can I ask you a question?
anything.
One of my favorite credit card ripoffs was the double billing cycle.
Oh, yes.
Because I
yes,
still
yes.
don't understand that. I mean, a woman from American Express was on the phone with me trying to either explain or maybe dissemble about it. I don't know, but I couldn't get it. Is that still allowed?
No. Double
Good.
cycle billing is over. That's when you paid, and then they charge you interest again on that which you really already paid that
Right.
they hoped you didn't realize that they were charging you for.
Yeah.
Also, universal default is supposed to be gone. That's where you have a problem with credit card B. Credit card
Oh,
A
yeah.
finds out about it, and they used to use it as an excuse to radically increase your rate on existing balances. But universal default is really not gone in terms of them raising your rates on future purchases, because they do have the right to look at you time and again and make a decision whether you're becoming a more serious credit risk than you had been. So
Now, just you mentioned overdraft protection, that it's an opt-in. And Jack, our own Jane Bryant Quinn says that never, ever, ever should you opt in for overdraft protection. Agree or not?
Oh, absolutely.
And
But
by the way, would you ever
I
disagree with that?
Yeah, well, would you ever disagree with Jane Bryant
Never,
Quinn? We're not allowed
never.
to. It's in our contract. But this is such a great story because it really captures what the banks have been doing and why. Even if you're inclined toward the free market, you have to agree that, it was time for the government to step in. I kind of wish government's hand had not been forced, but clearly they would. And I don't know if people understand the story behind this. But it used to be that if you overdrew your debit card, the woman at the grocery store counter would say, "I'm sorry, this has been rejected," and you'd have to put the tuna back, as Jane Bryant Quinn says. But then, about 10 years ago, somebody came up with a brilliant idea, the guy with the green eye shade, the same guy, your friend,
that guy.
who realized, wait a second, we'll let them overdraft, and we'll charge them $35 a pop. It's a courtesy. And so if you buy a cup of coffee for $2, but you only had $1 left, then it's $2 for the coffee plus $35 for the overdraft.
Very unhappy Happy Meals.
Yes, exactly.
Unhappy meals.
And then somebody came up with an even better idea. I know. Instead of, if you buy that cup of coffee in the morning and then a sandwich for lunch, and then on the way home you spend $50 at the grocery store. Well, if you had 55, or let's call it 50 in your account, the overdraft would not be triggered until that last purchase. But what the bank would do is, at the end of the day, would take all your charges and charge the most expensive one first, regardless of the chronological order. So you trigger the overdraft fee there, boom, and then that coffee, that's another one, the sandwich, another one. So they'd get 3 overdrafts, even though you actually didn't overdraft until the last one. And the court finally said a couple days ago, I believe, that
There was a case in California.
Yeah.
Yep.
that this was really gouging. And of course, Wells Fargo is appealing because it's $40 million in revenue.
Well, actually, I think it was almost $1.7 billion over a period of years. They had originally projected it at $40 million, and it went way beyond their wildest expectations.
right. It was like, oh, this is better. We really screwed people far more efficiently than we had ever hoped.
But here's the thing to keep in mind. The over-limit opt-in program has stricter limits for credit cards than it does for debit cards. That debit cards, there is no cap on what they can charge on an over-limit fee. And until that California ruling in a class action lawsuit, which will be a blueprint for future class action lawsuits, or at least future decisions in currently those that are going on at the moment, resequencing is not against the law at the moment. And it's sort of an unlimited possibility on debit card fees, even though they claim there has to be some reasonable relationship. So, tune in.
Sure, it's just so mind-bogglingly slimy
Yeah.
that it really takes me to the point where I'm thinking, yeah, Uncle Sam has got to step in. And I'm not inclined to think that, but in this case, it's just absurd.
But think about
I don't know if I have a sound effect for mind-numbingly sleazy. I'm trying to find one, but okay.
Mind-bogglingly slimy.
Slimy.
But I do like mind-numbingly sleazy, too.
There, you got a bell. Okay.
Great, thanks.
But if you think about the environment that we've just lived through, for several years, first it was no borrower left behind. Then it was no borrower left standing. Then it was for those borrowers who had managed to claw their way back onto the train that were being unceremoniously flung off the trestle. We really lived through Wild West.
Yeah.
And therefore, for those who say the government had no business stepping in, who else was going to step in? Because these folks were not self-regulating.
Right, absolutely. I have a couple of questions from MoneyWatch users that I want to bring up here. Beverly has 3 credit cards with balances. 2 are 0% interest. 1 is 3.25% interest. Those are nice low rates. I like 0. Total balance is $24,000. The 0% cards are about to expire. Should I transfer them to another 0% and pay the 5% transfer fees, or should I transfer them to the 3.25% card and have only one payment instead of three? Get that one? Got
Yeah.
that,
It's
Jack?
a math problem. It sounds to me off the cuff that she's better off going to the 3%, as long as that's a guaranteed rate. I don't know, that could be a teaser rate, and that kicks up also.
What do you think, Adam?
I'd go to the 3.5. You don't want to keep running up inquiries and hopping from card
That's
to
exactly.
card to card.
That's where I think. And by the way, it also depends on how long it's going to take you to pay off.
Sure.
Right. But I think it's probably going to be the 3.25. We got
Also, she doesn't want to close those accounts either.
Well, I think she's saying that they're going to be closed. So I'm not sure if she says
Or her
she said
introductory rate
the
ends.
rate will expire. She doesn't have to close them out.
Right, yeah,
Right.
don't close them out.
Right, because that does screw up your credit.
Well, you
a
want the
little bit.
available credit. You want that.
Crystal wants to know. She says she doesn't have any credit cards. Must be young. You know, the youth of America. They have debit cards. I never used a debit card in my life. And she is finding it hard to rebuild her credit after she, quote unquote, messed it up. She didn't use. No, she said messed it up. And she wants good credit, and she readily admits, I made some bad business decisions. I just want to know, how do I make things better for myself? How do I rebuild my credit? What's the advice that we're going to give her? Adam, why don't you weigh in on that?
Well, I mean, the first thing is that if she's having trouble getting credit cards, that she should go to friends and family and see if she can become an additional card holder on a credit card. The second thing is to see if someone is willing to be a cosigner, although cosigning is much more dangerous than adding someone as an additional card holder to your card. And if you are an additional card holder, you will get the benefit of a pot, but presuming that it is a positive credit history that's attached to that card, as long as you're on it, you'll get the benefit of it. Also, a secured credit card might be a way that would help her. Debit cards, we know, don't help you, but if you need the credit card function, as it were, then a debit card may be the only thing that you can, get, then you need to do it. Also, the possibility, if you have a CD, take a loan out against it, pay it back. Just make sure that the financial institution reports it. But these are some of the things that she can do.
When I got my first credit card, I was unable to get whatever it was. I had no credit history, and so I went out and got a Texaco card, which they gave me because I had a pulse. Now, that might have been back in the good old days, but then I paid that off, and so then I got a credit card, and then I was inundated with credit card offers for the rest of my life.
And now you are the king of credit cards.
Can you still do that? Are there easier things than credit cards?
Well, store credit cards are historically easier, and you just have to weigh, again, the fact that the discount you get on day one could become the nightmare to haunt you if you run balances on store credit cards. Plus, you're more limited. You're limited to either the store or chain of stores or mall.
I meant that purely as a tactic for this woman to start.
No,
building
that would be one.
Again, yeah.
The other thing that actually to talk about too in the Credit Card Act is, it radically re-altered the rules on people under the age of 21.
Right.
In the old days, if you could fog a mirror, you got a credit card.
You know what always really freaked me out? I mean, you would go to a college campus during the orientation week, and there are credit card companies sitting there
Yes.
opening accounts for kids. How does the institution itself allow that to happen?
Well, the institution got a piece of the action.
Yeah, right. So thank you very much, dear old alma mater, creating a bunch of credit-using youngsters getting hooked on the stuff.
Well, and you talk about hook, the convenience checks. My theory is that's the crack cocaine of the credit industry for years.
Yeah.
But no, the universities made deals. Now they actually have to publish the contract that they have with the credit card company. Credit card companies are banned from university campuses, so you don't have to run the gauntlet between your dorm room and your classroom. So we must, I guess, lament the days of free T-shirts, free pizza, and everything else going on campus.
They'll still be at Spring Break, though.
No, there will. And let's face it, since campus is 1 inch away from the town, they could be sitting there as locusts buzzing around university gates waiting for you to come out so they can immediately assault you with credit card applications.
Now, guys, I want to, before we end up here, there's this idea around debit and credit, and I think sometimes it's a little bit generational. But Adam, do you have a preference, credit versus debit, and how do you come down on this?
Well, I, as an identity theft guy as well, the concern I've always had with debit cards.
Wow, what's your real name?
Sorry, I'm not at liberty to give that.
Yeah, exactly. I'd have to kill you.
Credit cards give you greater security than debit cards.
Can we just do that one more time? That's a good soundbite. Say it one more time.
Yes, credit cards give you greater security than debit cards. There are better protections for you. Remember, if you use a credit card, it's their money. If you use a debit card, it's your money. If your debit card gets compromised, depending upon when you find out about it, when you notify your institution, that could have an effect on the liability, where with a credit card, it is what it is. And with debit cards, let's assume for the moment that the bank agrees with you and returns your money. It may take a few days to do it. And if that's your grocery money, your tuition, your rent money, you could have a real problem because landlords and grocery stores don't quite understand identity theft issues the way they do.
And Jack, what you weighing in on this, the debit versus credit? I know you like one of our the stories on the site that Kathy Christoff wrote, the dangers of using a debit card.
Yes, so she says what Adam said, and the funny thing is some green eye shade guys who clearly make a living off of debit cards are all in the comments field arguing with her, but it's mainly over semantics, and so I agree completely. I do think that the debit card has some advantages for people who spend too much money, especially if they don't have any overdraft protection. If when they're cut off, they're off. To make everyday purchases, the grocery store, something like that, with a debit card can make sense on a personal level for just keeping your money in line. But anything online, any big purchases, anything you want protection on from insurance, that all ought to be on a credit card.
One quick note, and that is that if you're not part of an overlimit program, then at least make sure that you check your accounts every day so that you know where you are in terms of your debit and credit cards, and that you understand every transaction and it's you, that it's not an identity theft issue. And the second thing is link accounts. Link them so that in the event you start to run down, instead of paying an outrageous overlimit fee, the linking fee when they transfer money is less. And plus, enroll in programs with your banks where they will notify you when you reach certain milestones on your account so that you can be more aware of how close you're coming to the line.
That is my favorite new thing that the banks and the credit card companies, I just read about that, where MasterCard and Citigroup are going to announce this program that actually will, basically you set a limit and say, I can't spend more than X amount of dollars on restaurants. Once you go over that, your credit card, they'll ding you on your credit card. They won't let you use it anymore. And they'll notify you in real time what's going on. I kind of like that.
Well, it's all part of stepping up our financial literacy and having disclosures that actually work for us, provided we take note and do something about it.
Right. Now, also because you are an identity theft specialist, you will come back because we are fascinated by that. What's the scariest thing going on in identity theft world right now, Adam?
I think the scariest thing is the fact that we are so tracked everywhere we go, whether it's geo-tracking and photographs, so you take a photograph and they can figure out where you are. But identity theft, medical identity theft, synthetic identity theft, criminal identity theft, it's all getting worse. Child identity theft, 400,000 kids a year, victims of identity theft, perfect targets because they're not going to check a credit report. And for years, it's not like their parents are checking credit reports. So you start and can mold an identity that way when no one's looking.
Just by stealing their Social Security number.
That's a big step.
Wow. And you know what? And kids these days, if I may be so old, they give out too much information to anybody who asks.
Generation I. Instead of Y, Gen I.
I like
Invincible.
that.
Invincible. They get on the internet. It's like, I can say anything, do anything. Nobody's going to, create a problem for me. It'll never happen to me.
Never.
On Facebook now, they keep on prompting me to identify faces so that the database can be full of, you called it, not it's not geotagging, it's photo tagging, I guess.
Well, it's a photo tagging, but although Facebook actually has something that scrambles the geotagging issue.
Let me tell you something. If you care about security, you actually will not be posting anything on Facebook. It is the most ridiculous and unsecure environment. I don't care about any of those privacy settings. Don't put your personal information on there that other people can see. Because Adam, as you said, people are talking about like, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And they have their address listed in their it's crazy. What are they thinking?
If someone's stalking you, they'll figure out where you're going. And if someone's casing your house, they'll certainly show up at the door a few minutes after you leave.
And, by the way, I was never a good stalker because I always got bored by the process. Like, this is kind of boring.
How often did you try?
People would say to me, do you know what your ex is doing? I'm like, I can't be bothered with that.
Okay.
So I tried. It was just boring to me. Anyway, I think we're more interesting than anyone in your past. So there's that. We got to wrap up the show. Adam Levin, superstar. By the way, let's also, I'm just going to give you a little sound effect here because is that a gorgeous suit?
Yeah.
The guy is wearing a gorgeous suit, and we're like, you're wearing a tie. I'm wearing Friday attire, so I'm bad. It was great to have you. We cannot wait to have you back in here again. Adam, remember, is the man behind Credit.com and Identity Theft 911. So Identity Theft 911, you'll be back and telling us more about that, right?
Love to do it.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Jill Schlesinger.
I'm Jack Otter.
And this has been Ask the Experts. We're so psyched you joined us today. Tune in next week, and don't forget to send us questions. Ask the Experts at MoneyWatch.com. Rolling, rocking with the music. Let's go.